Hi, my name's Now X, and you're watching The Music Enthusiast.
Hi, what's up? I'm Sarah from the Music Enthusiast, and today I'm here with Niall X. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. It's definitely because I'm in London, you're in Canada. This must be the latest interview I've ever done. But in some ways, it's great because it's kind of like that part of the day where you're feeling a bit more like whimsical and kind of, a little more, a little things a little wilder. So, yeah, I'm excited to chat.
What time is it now where you are?
20 to 10.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah. But
it's
that's when I'm at my best. Don't worry. I'm like a night owl, I think. Anyway, so it's yeah.
oh, so like are you like more creative during the nighttime rather than the daytime?
Yeah, like I know there's artists that talk about waking up super early and treating it like a job and all of those, and I think there's like loads of benefit to that in certain ways, but I think it's impossible to deny that like late at night you just feel like a bit of a magic about whatever like your surrounding or the world, or like something like the softness of the light. I don't know, that like to me I've always found more inspiring. Like I can sit there like really late just tinkling on the piano or something, and everything feels like it has a little more weight to it, I think.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Like even like answering emails and stuff, I feel like I get so much more done during the night. Like I don't know if it's like the moon or like something in this like sky that's like really productive energy. It's really weird.
Yeah, yeah.
So, what is your most favorite musical memory of all time?
Wow. Okay. That's a very difficult question for me. So I don't know if you know, but I kind of grew up in this very um in a kind of unusual musical tradition, in the sense that I was like in the classical world from a very young age. And that was kind of my like journey into music, really, was just like as one of those little kids in England who sings super high. And yeah, and in this country, there's like a lot of educational infrastructure around those sorts of like abilities and things. So I could like, each school I went to, like I was unlocking doors at being able to go to schools like better than the ones I maybe would have been able to go to just because I could sing. And that's kind of unusual. So it was like there were so many amazing opportunities as being a part of that kind of tradition. I mean, I remember singing in like Notre Dame when we were maybe like 11. I've sung in the Sistine Chapel for the Pope, sung in the Vatican. Like, I mean, we were all over the world doing CDs, and we were in China and America. And so like, I've been so lucky in a way to have this kind of, to be a part of this incredible music, like rich musical tradition that's like kind of quite specifically European, and in some ways quite specifically English. I mean, even like when I studied music at university, and I was on like a scholarship to sing even there, so that's kind of it. But I've always wanted to be, even from when I was like 11, when my dad started playing me like Guns N' Roses and Led Zeppelin in the car, I on the way to like guitar lessons, like I always wanted to be doing the pop thing, doing like the rock thing. And I think in a way was living this weird double life as like as a teenager, where I was like singing like seven concerts a week or something most of the time in the classical world, but kind of like moonlighting and like writing pop songs and trying to like develop that side, and like pretending I was Bob, singing like with a ridiculous like Bob Dylan-esque kind of like husky voice, which was clearly like wasn't me, but I was trying to like break away from it, the surrounding that I'd been part of, which I think is supernatural. But I mean, sorry, that's such a long-winded way to answer your question. But I think like for me, I got really lucky. I got very lucky when I was 13 to sing as a soloist in the Royal Opera
Yeah.
for a season, and that has never left me. It's I can't remember a lot about it, weirdly. Like I have images in my head, and I remember like the feeling. I think the thing I remember most is like the feeling the first night when you do it for the first time.
Mhm.
And there's like it's the biggest biggest theater in London or whatever, and it's 3,000 people or something close. And I think like that you can only really ever, as a musician, I'm sure other musicians relate to this, like you can only really do that thing for the first time once.
Yeah.
um it's not, I still get just as excited, if not more excited, like when we play even like club shows now and with Now X and stuff. But there's something about like, in terms of a musical memory, I'd be like kidding myself if I didn't use that as the example.
I'm guessing this like your whole music career sort of like started at a very young age. Like you grew up in a classical household and then like you got all these opportunities. So what was it like sort of like as a kid already in this industry?
it's, you know, I look back on it and I don't think at the time I appreciated how demanding it was.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, when I say 7 concerts or performances a week, like I'm genuinely being serious that that was like the average. Like often it was sometimes more.
Wow.
Like sometimes there would be multiple per day and you wouldn't have a day off and things like that. And like when you're like, I got into that when I was 7 or 8, I think. And you're doing that like all over the world. You're traveling away from your family, you know. But at the same time, I was able to like, I never had like I never really had like a job as a kid growing up. Like most people go and like, you know, work at like a cafe or like clean like your neighbor's yard or whatever. Like I never did anything like that because there was no time because we were doing this and but we got paid to do something of it, you know. So like when I sang in the opera, I got, I think it was like £2,000 or something for this whole run of shows, which doesn't sound like a lot now, but at the same time, like I bought all my early recording equipment when I was 13 with this music, like stuff from the classical world. So I was like, okay, there's something here. Like I can do this and I can also do this and this can help this. And that was like the beginning of a lot of times I think in my life where I've realized that like this could help this and they're both valuable. Even if like one is not your favorite, like there's meaning and there's value in it. And that's something I really see about the classical world now is like what I learned, I think, along the way without realizing it. Even just being able to sit down now at a keyboard and like hear things or you know in your head and then see sort of notes and like and really feel music in a way that can only really come from like tens of thousands of hours of like performing at that sort of level, I think. So I gained all of those things doing it, but it was hard. I missed out on a lot of like things I wanted to do, like a lot of normal teenage or like, you know, youth experiences I sort of missed out probably, but I'm making up for it now.
Yeah, for sure. And in Sad Kids in America, you could totally hear like the classical sort of like influence on the song. Like obviously your voice, but just like the theatrical sort of feel to it, especially with like your filmmaking side too. Like you sort of merge it all together. So I'm guessing that it just happened, right?
Talking about Sad Kids in America
Yeah.
or as
Yeah.
a song. Yeah, I think that I've with Now X, I think like the major kind of, because I'd done bands before and like growing up in at uni and all this stuff. And I think the thing with this project that was really important to me is that I wasn't going to pretend to be something that I wasn't. It's really hard to know what you are, you know, like we live in this culture of like constant bombardment of, you know, inspiration of all sorts of from every angle, you know, like, oh, this person's doing this, that's cool, oh look how many likes they got for this, like that's kind of trendy, like it's so much and it's so easy to lose yourself. And I really like feel for like, you know, our generation and like the generations up and coming now. And like I think that with Now X it was this like really specific choice to do a thing in pop that was uniquely me, I think, at least to try. And I think with Sad Kids, that was like maybe that's like the first milestone I think I've hit with the project, because it's quite new, where I felt like it was truly me and truly kind of honest. And I was writing very much from like, you know, the story is about like a few different people, but friends of mine growing up in the States, completely, who none of them know each other or anything, but just who have all been incredibly important to me and have had these like incredibly difficult lives in different ways. And it just felt like the time to get it down on paper, because I'd seen like all 3 of them within this really close space of time, and there was all this new kind of stuff going on, and I don't know, it just kind of came out, and I was suddenly like, okay, like that is a truly honest song. And it's really hard to write a truly honest song. I think I must have written hundreds of songs, and I, you know, most of them I think you can hit 90% pretty easily, but to go the full 100, and I think I would hope that that's the full 100 for me, and vocally as well as, you know, narratively. It's I didn't want to shy away. It's easy to shy away. There's a few different colors with my voice, and I can like lean on this pop thing sometimes more, or lean into the classical thing sometimes more, and it really depends on what you're doing. But with that one, I think it has the perfect blend of like the kind of poppy verses and then the kind of like more expansive choruses that kind of makes me. So yeah, that pleased with that song, but already well onto like the next set of stuff now. So
Yeah, for sure. And there's a specific lyric that's in the chorus. It's probably the main lyric of the whole song. Will we be forever sad kids in America? Do you think we'll sort of grow out of that stage, or do you think we'll always be sad kids in America?
That's probably the most difficult. That might be the most difficult question I've ever been asked. I mean, do you know what? Like, I have to preface this by like, because I'm sure people listening will be like, "Well, this guy's British, quite clearly. Like, this guy is so clearly British." And I am. I mean, my mum's American. I grew up like, you know, in America. I've lived in America quite a lot, and I've always had like, in a way, like seen it as someone who was coming and going, which I think is quite an interesting way to see a place. You know, with a different sort of objective perspective sometimes. And like I would feel things that changed it both in me and in the place each time I would come and go. I don't know. I think that the things that we're sad about change.
Yeah.
And I think also like as you change, like the things that affect you, you know, most sort of intimately also kind of shift. And in a way it was an attempt to capture that. Like, I think we all know that like there will forever be sad kids in America, whether we are forever those sad kids in America, maybe not. We can hope not. But actually at the same time, like it's not really a life if you're not, you know, like I think it doesn't mean that like just because you're a sad kid in America doesn't mean you're always sad. And I think that was really important because there is like elements of joy to the song as well. But sometimes you stop and ask yourself that question, like, is this going to be forever? And I think that was kind of what I was trying to hit on.
You released an acoustic version to this song. The video is you just playing the song on the guitar, a bit of lights in the background, on the piano. Sorry, I even did hand gestures, and I even said guitar. Wow. And you mentioned how all your songs start off like a view in the dark on the piano. So, what was it like, sort of filming this and bringing it all together acoustically?
It's nice to do something the way it was written. That's always kind of remains true. I think especially a song like that, which is, you can't really hide behind production with a song like that. Like we did in the main version, but not necessarily to hide, but it's quite an expansive, there's like strings in there and there's synths and there's like, you know, all this kind of, that kind of classic, what I hope with this project, this combination of kind of traditional elements and like really quite like contemporary electro pop sounds and things. But it's nice to feel like, I think that again, we live in this very like this culture of like curated image, and sometimes it's quite nice to just sit at a piano with some lights and just play and nothing else is really happening, you know. And I think that was the attempt with that. I didn't want to do an acoustic version where there was like, you know, like a moving set or like, you know, like anything particularly crafty. And I think, you know, I always have to rein myself in, being like, you know, from the film world as well. And you know, I always like as a chat, like I always want to use these videos as like a challenge as a filmmaker, not just as a musician. But sometimes that's not the right choice. You know, sometimes it's better to actually just make something really true and raw and simple, and that can be effective. And I think I'm kind of learning that a bit more now. Like I think at the first stage of the project, like I love all the movies, all the videos that we did, and yeah, each of them are really different. But I think I'm sort of also learning like the economy of kind of doing something that's simple and letting the music also speak for itself, you know.
And what is coming next for Now X?
Well, so I mean, I think that Sad Kids in America as an EP was kind of the end of an era, like the first era. I don't know if you've sort of noticed, but like the color scheme of everything that we've done has been like basically orange and the sort of contrasty neon thing, with the orange jacket appearing a lot. That was kind of this like staple kind of clothing thing that we did. And I think that I'm going to change that up a lot. Now I've already cut my hair and I think that there's a new era that's starting in the next couple of months. Like we've already got the next single produced and is in the mix now, which is a whole new side of like the project. It's like, I think it's in a way it's my attempt to dip a toe into like the kind of bigger pop thing whilst still being like intrinsically what makes Now X, at least to me, you know. Which is fun because I've it's always been really important to me that everything that I do with this project is different, you know. Like I've never been a fan of bands where like every song kind of sounds and blurs into the same thing, like it's the same arrangement and the same kind of speed, and that's a lot, you know. There's a lot of projects like that, and I've wanted this to be like every song on an album can sound completely different, but there's something that holds it together. This next one, I'll send you a link so you can have a listen. But it's like it is like I think you'll be like raising eyebrows a little bit, but like also be like, hell yeah. That's my hope. But that we'll do an EP later in the year. We've got another big show coming up. We're going to like announce the date soon in London. The hope is to get to North America. Like if someone will take us on tour with them, pretty pleased at some point. But you know, you have to take it one step at a time. And I've been really, really grateful and pleased for like the support we've had and opportunities, and hopefully, you know, may that continue.
Yeah, well, I cannot wait for everything to come next for you. I have one more question. Who are your favorite artists right now?
My favorite artists right now?
Yeah.
It's funny. I think doing this project, I've fallen a bit into this kind of community of people making music, because that's kind of what happens, right? Like you're like, I want to make music, and you find other people that make music to make music, and then they're like, oh, do you know this other guy that makes music, or this other girl? And like, so that's kind of been like this bit of the journey in the last year or so. And so like a lot of my favorite stuff that I've been listening to has been kind of the things that have been happening around me, like even stuff that's not even like hardly released or known or whatever, but like just things that friends are doing has been really cool. There's this band called Modern Love that I sort of become friends with, who were like, you know, initially found, I think, by one of the producers that I've worked with a lot, who's like a big like friend of my project and friend of mine. And so they're great. My friend Jack has a band called Leap that just great. They just got their first song on like a TV show. They're really awesome. They have a song called Where the Silence Goes that is just like an absolute anthem. And everything they do just seems to like get people dancing, and that's really, really cool. But it was also like its own kind of, it's like rocky and heavy, and it's dope. And then on the more like kind of well-known side, like I'm always kind of into like I'm kind of liking like Bleachers and stuff right now. And you know, basically anything that Bon Iver does. I've always loved The National. So they kind of always sticks with me. But like Bright Eyes was like my be all end all from when I was a kid, and that's going to be like the number one in my heart, I think, for till, you know, till death do me part or whatever. Yeah, there's quite a few things there. The Japanese House I love as well.
Oh my God. Her like their album is literally in back of me.
Oh yeah, so good. Yeah, Amber Bain is like, oh, love. Yeah, so many, honestly.
Yeah, totally agreed. Well, I cannot wait for what's to come next with you, and it was so great chatting. Hopefully next time.
Thank you, really appreciate it.